everybody. Set the tone, man.
Set the tone. Let's do it. It's December 4th, the year 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 639.
It is, and it's almost 2023. We better get our shit together, everybody.
Yeah,
These years are moving faster, man.
Yeah, they fly by. I mean, it's like, you know, we say all the time. It's like the days seem like they creep on and take forever, and the weeks fly by. And that is the same. I cannot believe that that we're about to cap off the end to 2022, an amazing year, a welcomed year with a little more, concreteness in the race calendar for most people, not as much guessing, which has been a good thing. But yeah, it's awesome. It's December. It's a great month. We have our December rules in. And it's good to be back. It's good to be back in the office while we both had an amazing time in our run camp over the last 5 days. We got a little transition day on Monday, back in the swing of things yesterday, and then back in the groove today. And then we'll talk a little bit about run camp and then a few other things in our mind. But if it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have a plethora of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk a whole lot about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level triathletes looking at their very first 5K or sprint, all the way up through elite-level amateurs trying to get back to Kona, and everyone in between from all over the world. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, and we'll let you right in. Amazing community, great group of people, and a fantastic resource. Whether you're a beginner or a veteran, there is every kind of athlete in there. Again, from beginners who are just haven't even begun, trying to just figure out if they won't even want to do a triathlon, just looking for kind of valuable resources and communities to point them in the right direction, all the way up through professionals and Ironman champions and everyone in between. So we've all got experiences, we've all got wisdom. And most people are willing to share it. So participate, don't be a lurker, but chime in. And if you got questions, by all means, ask them. And we'll, at least once a month, we'll usually pop in there and do a little bit of a Q&A and trying to get through as many of those as we can. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We also don't do interviews. And we don't do ads, but we do have an agenda. And that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a coach, go to our website and check out the roster. And see if anything fits. And if you're not looking for a coach yourself, coach, it is, like I said, 2023 is coming quick, like a freight train, quickly.
It sure is.
And we've got some great training plans that we're cooking up for next year for the Ironman 70.3. So go to the training plans tab on C26Triathlon.com. Check it out.
Yeah. I've been chipping and whittling away at all of those in the last few weeks, and it's going to be a lot of new stuff. So even if you use one of our plans in the past, we always get questions like, if I use this plan once, can I use it again? And by all means, you can, because once it's attached to your Training Peaks account, it's yours. There's really is no expiration date, but this is all new swim sessions, all new bike sessions, all new run sessions, and the format and the layout will be different. So exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. But yeah, if you're looking for a coach, hop on the coaching tab, figure out the coach that's right for you. And then if you're looking for more of a training plan option, one, because that's more of your thing, but two, also because it's a lot more financially doable, then do that, because we'll still do a lot of things with the Facebook community and also Zoom calls. But yeah, looking at that. But yes, the end is, or excuse me, the end is here. Yeah, that's a little too ominous and dramatic. But yeah, it's the end of the year. We just got back from a we call it a run camp. I'm not sure that's legit advertising. I mean, it really is, but at the same time, it's just as much an emotional, mental, and physical reboot for everybody. I mean, it's we do a lot of running. We hole up in a in a beautiful lodge on about it's got to be like 200, 300 acres that his guy has, with a bunch of trails. We park on Tuesday and we don't leave until Sunday. Meals come in on the at nighttime. You cook your own stuff, or I put it on the grill and cook it for you, apparently, for breakfast and lunch. But really, it's a great time. We do a lot of fun things. We work hard, but we have fun. And then the biggest piece is the community. It's always, for me, it's always a great reminder and a great opportunity to connect, sit around, chat, not talk about triathlon, but just talk about life and connect with people and have meaningful conversations. And then, biggest thing, is just getting away from responsibility. It's funny because, like, technically, quote unquote, we're both working the entire time, but we disconnect from training peaks and emails and stuff for the most part, and that's usually where the hardest stuff lies. Not in the training and the planning, but reading through things and the soft skills and hearing about people's lives and stresses and kind of at Run Camp, it's kind of like condensed into you're kind of like hiding away from the world. So as hard as it is, on the legs and with the terrain and the challenging stuff that we do, it's the boost that I get emotionally and mentally far outweighs the soreness that I get physically.
Yeah, really, to me, it's how life should be. I shouldn't say that. You get up early. That's not always my thing, but I believe in it. And then you work hard and kind of relax a little bit, take a nap. Some people snuck away from naps. Nobody gives you a hard time for that. And then you run a little bit more and work hard. You have a good meal and you get to bed early and you sleep like a baby up there. I do anyway. I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure you do. And then you get up and you kind of do it, but you feel good and there's something about it. Yeah, we got there Tuesday and I'm like, man, we're going to be here for a long time. It kind of feels like you're settling in and going to bunker down. And then Sunday morning, I got up about 7 o'clock and Emily and I were the only ones there. It's like everybody was just gone.
Dude, it was a legendary group in the cleanup process. They PR'd and set a new team PR for cleanup and getting out of Dodge. But yeah, it was well done, and it really is. It's always an incredible time, just getting out there and changing things up. Like you and I talked before we went live today, how. And we mentioned this at least 3 to 4 times a year. And we mentioned, especially in the off season, is the changing of terrain is so crucial. We talk about it a lot in the pool, because it is, we triathlon has become so, from a training aspect, it's kind of like been pigeonholed. Your training is like been shifted and kind of put in this box. It's not honestly like how you're supposed to train, like for the environment. You got people that only swim in the pool and only swim a certain way, and like that's going to prepare them from open water, right? And then you got people who only train inside and they only hit the trainer, or they go to spin classes or whatever it is, and then that doesn't prepare you from cycling outside, the wind, the hills, the terrain, the shifting, eating, drinking, handling an aid station doesn't prepare you. And then you got running. Everyone's so like, we got to go north and south, the treadmill, a lot of treadmill work, even like, running the treadmill, staring at a Zwift screen. It's like, let me run on the treadmill. I'm not working on, how I step, when I step, changing of cadence, elongate your stride, shorten your stride, posture. It's like, it turns into more mindless stuff, or, I want to take the flat route outside because it's going to give me the fastest, pace. And that's important, but we have to challenge ourselves in different environments, and it's just so good. Like, I remember I had this conversation with a few of the athletes at camp, talking about, they were saying, hey, I'm going to challenge myself with doing more trail races this year. And somebody said, another athlete specifically said, I've had a lot of ankle problems in the past and I've always been afraid to do trails. And I haven't hurt my ankle once since I've been here. And the terrain we do is incredibly challenging, not just from a terrain aspect, it's dirt, it's gravel. We don't do any pavement at all. But and you got rocks and roots. And so, but the thing is that one of my biggest things of running is that when you get lazy or you get too tired is when you get hurt. It's rarely ever the volume. It's also about your lack of paying attention. And when you're out there, you've got to pay attention. If you don't, you're going to bite it, right? So you think about how you play, you think about how you do this. And what I was telling him, and I've told athletes before, is like, you're kind of continuing down the path of my ankles are weak and I'm afraid I'm going to hurt myself because I'm not doing trails. Like, well, the fact of the matter is you're going to get hurt because you don't do them, probably, right? Like, your ankle is weak because all you do is run north and south. You don't force your foot to plant differently, to move differently. You don't, you're not doing downhills. You're not doing harder uphills. Like, you're just terrified of getting hurt. And what's happening is you're just continuing to make yourself weaker. It's kind of like when they started to raise, like, basketball shoes higher and higher and higher and higher to quote unquote, high tops, quote unquote, protected your ankle. And all it did was make it weaker, right? Because you weren't having to think about how you planted and how you moved. You weren't strengthening those complementary tendons and ligaments. And that's what trail running does. Like, you have to think about it. And I mean, it really is kind of fascinating, the amount of people who tweak something or get niggles or pains or injuries from stepping up a curve wrong, or, ran on the treadmill and I'm an IT band site. Like, we hit up, people did like 2 or 3 loops of this, like, quote unquote, half marathon 10K course. And one 10K is 1,300 feet. 2,600 for the half marathon loop on incredibly hard terrain with steep downhills and steep uphills and rocks and roots. Everyone survived. And so I think it creates a level and an opportunity for you to focus on what you're doing and how you're planting, because we get so lazy. And you even mentioned this again before we went live today. It's kind of like, you get on the treadmill or you get on the trainer and you can be lazy. You can just be lazy. You don't have to think. You're not going anywhere. It's not as exciting. You're just kind of like, you get kind of put in this kind of comatose days of sloppiness, and you're sitting up on your trainer and you're scrolling through Facebook and your pedaling mechanics is whack, and you forget what it's like to actually have to engage your core and be an arrow and grab drinks on the fly because you got this little table up next to you with 6 bottles and 20 goos. And then even seeing on the professional ranks, right? You watch, like, I think it wasn't Kona. It was a PTO Dallas Open, and it was maybe 2 weeks before Kona, and they were just giving Lucy Charles Barkley the business for not being able to get her bottle into her rear cage. She couldn't get it back in. She couldn't get it back in the cage. It takes practice, not practice on the trainer, but practice outside. And it's just, I think it's a great reminder to put yourselves in situations that, again, now that you want to do this leading right up to race day, but this time of year, it's about skill, it's about strength, it's about creating a more solid and better foundation so you can move harder and quicker and faster down the road, and then longer. Don't be afraid of doing stuff like this. Hop on the mountain bike, work on your handling, challenge yourself in the pool. Same way in the pool. Like, people just lazily go about it and then wonder why they get in open water where there's got east, west, north, south challenges and current and chop and waves, and then wonder why they're slower. Right? I think it's common sense, but we get kind of lulled into, a method or a training routine that kind of takes us away from what the demands really are in racing.
Yeah, I was talking to you about, I got on the treadmill last night, and how, I don't know how to describe it, but like if I do a long treadmill run and I get off, and of course there's that little equilibrium thing you always feel, and which I think is weird, but also I feel like it's kind of like not good for my soul or something, even though I like treadmill running, don't get me wrong, but we talk about what we did this weekend out at that camp and with the elevation and the trails and the routes and the, all that kind of stuff. That's all about being robust and stable, and you're building stability. And I think those are good things for your soul. I really do. I mean, living life in north and south is just kind of like this repetitive nature, really, while it makes us strong, and it's important because that's really what Ironman racing is. So you have to have that ability, but I think I always feel better on a treadmill if I'm stronger. I could run on a treadmill for months and be strong on a treadmill, quote unquote, but I don't feel like that overall strength factor. Emily and I were driving home. We were listening to the Rogan podcast with Goggins, and I just thought it was funny because they were talking about, building. He runs a lot, but he also does all kinds of other stuff to, for his body and his flexibility and pliability and all that stuff. And Rogan's like, well, shouldn't you really be doing more stability exercises, if you're doing that kind of stuff. And Goggins said, have you ever seen me with my shirt off? And he's kind of started laughing. David Goggins goes, I'm stable as fuck, man. But, he does pull-ups and, push-ups and all kinds of different stuff like that. But it's that stability for me that always tells me when I'm in a good place. You can feel sort of in good triathlon shape, but I've always kind of questioned the overall fitness of myself sometimes when I just do trainers and I just do treadmills and pool, like you're saying, because it's just as we get older, it's all about mobility and, sort of range of motion. And I think what happens is, you get out on, if you don't have that range of motion or that flexibility in your ankles or strength in your ankles, and you get out on hills and trails like that, man, it can feel dangerous. But if you own that, then you come back to the treadmill or the trainer, or you swim in open water, you feel like, a wave might push you one way or something like that, and your arm has to do something it's not used to doing. So I think that's really important. And I've been thinking about that a lot with, because I've had a shoulder issue for a while. It doesn't really affect my swimming, but I kind of try to think about different mobility things, and I don't know about you, but when I get it's amazing what we can do out there, to be honest. I mean, we run a lot, and, I hadn't really been running too much, but we put it on, like you said, at 2,500, 2,600 feet of elevation and a half, and feeling pretty good after that, actually. And I'm looking at you, and you're just flying down those hills, dude. You're just throwing it to the wind, man. What happened?
I was kind of soaking in the compliment you gave me.
Oh, yeah.
There. I got a little choked up.
No, but I mean, it's like, I was really kind of like, I know you hadn't been running trails much probably, right? But sometimes you just got to let it trails. Go. That was my thing. And I think that's why I'm actually fairly decent at that too, is that all my mountain biking, you just have to let go. And I think that's a skill to develop too. I mean, you can't, the slower you go, the more dangerous it is a lot of times on stuff like that.
100%. You just gotta throw caution to the wind. I mean, I really do, like, and stuff like that. And in triathlon, you're not going to see those kind of downhills and descents and rocks and it goes all the leaves that fall, because this campus like a lot later than we usually have it, so all the leaves are off the trees, and so you're stepping and you're like, I really hope there's not a big rock under this, because if you do, then you're going to have to be. So, but that's another thing. Like, it makes you, for me at least, like when I'm running downhill, I'm running hard and fast, but I'm also very, very, very aware that if I make a misstep, I've got to adjust immediately. So I'm stepping really light, because if you just step too hard, then once it's over, it's over. There is no recovery. But it's mountain biking, and it's funny how we get so terrified to do mountain biking. I might break my collarbone, or even hopping on a gravel bike, or open water swims, or or trail running. It just challenge yourself, right? Like, one of the biggest lessons I think most athletes could remind themselves of, again, of this time of year, and just always, is that long course racing is not about how fast you go. It's about how easy you can make things feel, because you're never going to be running your zone 4 speed, or power, right? You're going to be, so that it's like the higher your zone 2 is, the better. And by doing that, you have to become more efficient, right? And again, it's like, that's why I know I had not been running trails at all. I was actually thinking that when I got there, I was marking some of the course before everybody got there. And I was like, man, Chattanooga, I could go run trails once a week. I could run on the top of the mountain, I could run on the top of Lookout, but my trail game was way off. And I was like, man, these hiking these hills, my heart rate's like sky high.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a few days to get into it. But then it's just fun, right? It takes you out of it. It's wonderful. And I said this to the team, I think before one of the days, I said, one of the biggest benefits of trail running is that time is irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to PR. You're not going to go quote unquote fast. All you need to do is focus on your effort, and making it go for a long period of time, and then just finishing. And the freedom in that is so wonderful. And I also believe that, you're able to recover. And this, goes back to things in life that we talk about a lot and talk about the last few weeks is, you sleep well. I don't sleep terrible. I may not sleep great, but the biggest thing for me is stress has such a giant impact on your recovery that you can be in your regular bed, maybe sleep 6 or 7 hours, maybe even 8 hours a night. But then you get up, you go to work, you got your kids to deal with, you got to get them out the door, and you got to deal with things at home, you got to deal with your job, you got to deal with this. So things are super stressed. Everything's coming at you, right? From the time you wake up, it's just like you're fending off everything from every direction. There's always something, right? And that heavily impacts your ability to recover, right? Stress, inflammation, all those things greatly impacts your ability to recover. It also, mood also impacts your ability to recover. I mentioned this, I think, in the podcast last week about the study about, increased HRV and lowering your heart rate just based on writing, in a gratitude journal, right? That impacts recovery. And so you can do like a 30, 45-minute run, and you got all these, stresses and things kind of, tugging at you during like, a regular work week, and you might not recover. You might have to go store the next day. But then you go to a place like we went where you're surrounded by, you got water, you got beautiful trails. I mean, you got wildlife, and we saw turkeys and deer every day. It's beautiful, right? And you're in a place with other people that are uplifting. They're not negative, right? They're building you up. They're not tearing you down. They're there to listen. They're not there to, harp on you. And you're detached from really work, right? And life, the things that can really stress you out. You distance yourself from responsibilities and things that, really just kind of drain you each day. And all you're doing, like, if you think about it, all day long, our cup is being filled, right? The mood is great. We're having a good time. You're connecting with people. You're getting face-to-face interaction, right? With people, it's not a camp on Zoom. It's in person, right? Having meaningful conversations. And then you run with people in a great environment, right? Which is also proven to boost, right, your mood, like being out in the sunshine and running trails. Plenty of studies on that. It's no wonder people recover so well, right? It's not because we're not doing hard things. I think I clocked like close to 35 miles and over 400,000 feet of gain, which is more than in the last 6 weeks, and coming back from the flu and Thanksgiving. And yeah, I'm a little bit sore, but like, I mean, think about if I had tried to do that alone, right? With regular work stress and regular life stress and professionals. I mean, like all that stuff, it just makes such a giant impact, right? In life. And then again, like going back to the positive part of it is the impact that people can have in one way or another, right? In how you feel and your mood, and then that then you sleep better, right? Because you have less responsibility. So I really do think that is the key to being able to do what we do there in such a controlled environment. And it just, I think, highlights, for me and hopefully for you as well as the athlete, that reducing stress and reducing inflammation and surrounding yourself with great people and being happy has the biggest impact. Not buying the Normatec boots. I mean, we have those there, right? But the best part of the Normatec boots is you got 4 people in a corner, and you're all just talking to each other, right? And the whole room's got, the room's full of 15 people, or everybody chit-chatting, watching football games, basketball games, soccer, whatever it is, just shooting the shit. Like, that's the uplifting part, right? There is nothing negative about it, and that it's just a giant impact. And again, I think in the last 2 to 3 years, that's been one of the hardest things for athletes to recognize, is that we've removed or have chosen to remove opportunities to live better, be better, and train better, right? And to do that, you have to recover better. And we want to purchase devices and do these things that you just do alone, right? As you scroll through your phone, right? And look at life and stress and the news and stress. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Close your eyes, meditate, read a book, disassociate, because honestly, disassociating used to be like a bad word. Like, you just disassociate. Dude, right now, with a lot of stuff going on, like the more you can disassociate from the demands of life and what you see in the media, the better, right? Close your circle and do things like, even if you can't go to a camp like that, at the core of it, that's what you need to do, right? And it really is fairly simple. And while you have to pay to go to camp, a lot of that stuff can be found for free, right? Good people, good conversation, right? Limit stress. Yes, you got to have some of it, but we can all focus on things that limit it more than trying to purchase things, in the other direction that we think are going to solve the problem by focusing on it less. And that's just never the answer.
Mm. Well, I'm just going to say it. Stress, I think the key to stress is quieting your brain. For me, when I get the most stress, I'm just like locked in on a worry or locked in on something that I feel like needs to be done, or I screwed up on, or I forgot, or I'm letting someone down, or whatever the case may be. And, it's very difficult to be perfect, and quieting the mind. And I think that's what happens. And that's exactly what you were talking about right there, is that we get out there and for some magical way, it kind of just becomes this one group mission, which is just to get the most out of life, or have fun together and not stress about stuff. And certainly people do a little work out there on some of the free time, because there is a lot of free time, but for the most part, you're not walking up to someone and they're looking down at their phone, or they're not paying attention. It's people just kind of connecting, and this whole connection piece in an effort to disconnect. And there's some power in that, and I've been, since the first camp, I started kind of doing this, the cold plunge thing, where we go down to the creek and just, some people sit in it, some people go under, and some people just walk around and stand up to their knees, and it's, 40 degrees or whatever. But sometimes
did I hear a rumor you guys did like a 12-minute meditation in the plunge?
Well, I just kind of sat in there. I didn't go all the way under for 12 minutes, but we sat there 12 or 15 minutes in the cold water, up to our, I guess, midsection or whatever, and just kept the legs underneath. But yeah, we did that as a group. And I think a lot of times the hardest part of actually doing that is walking down that big hill after a big run, because then, you got to come back up it, and you're just over hills at that point. But I follow a lot of people that do the cold plunge, and what they always say is, in life you do hard things to make everything else easier. And they always talk about how there's really almost not many things that are harder to face than jumping in 35 degree or 40 degree water and sitting there, so and you just building those sort of patterns and the ability to kind of get through that sort of thing. And I was joking with my athletes in the email yesterday about how I was going to write a book called Don't Think About It. And to me, that's sort of one of those secrets or like patterns that I try to create, is that if I, it's that fake it till you make it kind of thing you talk about, where, if you harp and just kind of think about something over and over, it's going to bother you. And, that comes down to what we were talking a little bit about before the cast, was the theme in Training Peaks this week seems to be, I felt sore after this week. I was a little sore, but then after I got running, it felt better. And how when you do that, I think that's the key to not being sore, is actually to move more. So it's a tricky thing, because everybody wants to tell you, oh, you're sore. Well, just sit back and, kick back for a few days and don't do anything. But I really do think the key to that, healing inflammation is to get blood flowing in a responsible sort of manner. You don't want to go out and crush it every day, but just to get that, whatever it's going to take to kind of almost, if you got that, chronic, and I fall prey to it, like when I have, you always hear this, right, with people with plantar fasciitis, that it's like, yeah, that's a tough one, man. It's like, I don't know what to do. And it really almost always boils down to, you kind of got to go through it. And I don't know what that means, and don't blame me if it gets hurt worse, but a lot of times it's almost like you just got to kind of keep going, you just got to keep moving the body. And like I was saying earlier, this stuff never ends. Like, life doesn't end, there's not a point where you just kind of go, all right, I'm just going to sit here the rest of it. That's not a way to live either, so, getting through these things and facing them and kind of calming your mind. And I think, we create atmospheres for ourselves at home, and I'm not always the best at that, because how you come down and there's always shit you're looking around going, I need to do that. And it just like, it seems like it never ends. But out at camp, we're kind of like, I don't need to do shit right now except sit at this table and play a card game or something, or talk to somebody about their life, or, get into some things. but there's so much power in that. I think we almost create lifestyles for ourselves that fuel stress, and we do it not on purpose, but we do it subconsciously. And when we have the power to create our own environment, but it takes a lot of strength and courage to push through that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of, it takes a lot of focus, right? And patience. You said it multiple times in there about, it's about making things feel easier. But the way to do that isn't by doing easier things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easier things shouldn't be the standard, right? That's not how you make things easier, right? If you want to get stronger in the gym, you don't go less weight, right? You do more. Same thing in training, right? If you want to go faster, you don't do less volume at less intensity, right? And across all, it's like, but we do so many things now based on what we think is convenience, but what it's actually doing is preventing us from challenging ourselves in a way to make it better, right? And we talked again before air, and I was gonna say, hey, like at some point we got to talk about the Ironman World Championships being split now. Women are only in Kona. That was it was like happened while we were at camp. Like, kind of had a feeling it was going to come. I heard a few rumors, but it's official. And that's a huge topic, and I have a lot to say on it. But we'll save that for Thursday, because I really like where we're going. Down this topic and down this road. But one of the biggest things that I feel. And again, if you're probably listening to this, you're like, hey, well, I haven't been to one of these camps and I want to go, or I can't come to a camp. How can I apply this? And these are all things you can apply to your life, right? And examples, one of the other biggest things that I think is uplifting was laughter and having fun, geez. Right? You said like, we add so many things of, in stress that, that's who people just heap on stress in their life. They wonder why they're so stressed out, right? And they can't sleep, and their blood pressure's to the roof, and they're not training well, and their heart rate's high. I'm like, hello, like we a lot of times, myself included, sometimes willfully add stress, right? Just do it and then complain about being stressed. Yes, we all have kind of a base level of life we have to deal with, but it's stressful enough. But then we add it on. There's not near enough laughter because there's not near enough, an LOL text is not laughing.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
It's a thumb move, right? It's a thumb move. Like, but there is something about, like, we do these, kind of like I always include like some kind of fun out of the box games for us to do at camp. Like this year, we ran it back with capture the flag basketball, which again reminds us that there shouldn't be an athlete and triathlete, even though there is. And watching everybody play basketball, everybody's having a good time and we're laughing. And then we played the first ever round of capture the flag Connect 4, and there was so much laughter and so many people smiling. And you're like, I bet I know I did. Probably laughed more in that 4 to 5 days than I had in a month.
Oh yeah.
And what that does for your spirit and what that does for, you as a person, and again, your ability to recover. And like, I was joking around a few times, but I was like, we've got how I was spacing things out with like our harder workouts, and we moved up our race day. And I was like, listen, you got to layer in like a, upper before you bring in a downer, and I was like, that's what we did, like the capture the flag Connect 4. And then an hour and a half later, we did our incredibly hard trail race, but it got everybody's spirits up and everybody's laughing and having a good time, and then, it's just, those things are so they just seem so few and far between now, and the opportunities that we don't make, not that we don't have, but that we don't make, right? Because it's up to us to make those opportunities and to choose to do those things, and how you feel and how how uplifting it is, and it's incredibly important, and we can choose to do those things, right? Like, we keep blaming things, we keep blaming life, but are you adding laughter? Are you adding stress? Right? And the opportunities to connect with people and challenge yourselves and do these things, because it is, it's one of those things where you have to make a choice to step out of boxing. We had athletes that come who had never met anybody, and they're super nervous, and then like 3 hours in, your family, and then going back to what you said about moving is the best way to feel better. Like that's why everybody feels like absolute ass the day after they do a road trip. You're quote unquote resting the entire time, right?
Yeah.
You're not moving. Your bodies are resting. You should feel recovered, but you feel so stiff and so gross. And it's also stressful, right? When you're driving the interstate and the highways and trying to get somewhere. So your stress is high and you're not doing anything. You're sedentary. You're like maximizing stress, which is also minimizing recovery. right? Like we went out and we did our super hard run, and then the very next morning we got up and we went on a hike. Not an easy hike, not a stroll through the park or the greenway, but we did part of the course we did. In the first, like, I don't know, 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this does not feel good. Yep. And then by the time everybody got back, everybody's like, I feel better.
Yeah.
Right. You felt bad, then you do activity and exercise, and you feel better. Then other people head out for like an easy run. And it's like you have to just fight, I think, our mind and our body. And frankly, it's become because we've all gotten more mentally and emotionally weak as the years and years have progressed. That's just a fact. And so what happens is we've become mentally and emotionally weak as a society, and so the best way to market things to mentally and emotionally weaker people is to offer easier options, right? Because you're not going to buy something more challenging. You want to break, right? You want to break, and so you have to commit to doing things that are harder, right? That doesn't really make sense, but kind of flies in the at the trends that are going right now. And it is we make things so easy, but a lot of times it's like, you gotta challenge yourself. You gotta get out there. You gotta push yourself. Again, not to irresponsible ends, but to know what it feels like, right? And stop doing things that again I think it's like contrary to what we're being shoved in our throat right now is, well, life's hard enough, right?
Yeah.
Do this thing that's easy, right? Don't go outside and run on the treadmill and watch Netflix. Don't go outside and ride your mountain bike. You might get hurt. And then what if you miss your first sprint at the beginning of the year because you tweaked your ankle? Don't do this, don't do that. It's like, what we're doing is just we're feeding into the ease and the late and because it's like, well, life's too hard. You find something easy. Bullshit. Total utter bullshit. What you need to do is continue to work hard to show yourself that you can, because the fact is that life's always hard, right? Like life's always hard because it's your base level of what's hard. Right? Because whatever you're going through, your life is the hardest because you're the one going through it. And no matter if someone else's life on the optic level looks significantly harder, you're not feeling it, right? So it's not that hard to you. But your life is always hard because you're the one feeling it, you're the one doing it. And again, like making things easy isn't the way to get stronger. Do harder things, make it. And like I needed this reminder for myself specifically. I know it's November and December, and I always talk about recovery a lot, and I probably annoys people, but whatever. But I wanted to share the story about leaving camp and what an incredible reminder it was for me. And maybe we can use that photo as like the backdrop for the podcast so people can understand what I'm actually talking about here. But I was leaving the 5-star retreat, and I was going this back way that I'd never been before. One, I think just because I've never come from Kansas, I always came from Tennessee, but went this different way. Waze is like, go this way, and I was like, so I missed the first turn because I was like, Waze, you're drunk, no thank you. But then I was like, Waze is like always right, so I'm gonna blindly follow Waze and just go where it tells me to do. And so finally it was like turn right, and I was like, I always turn left. You always turn left when you leave. It takes you right out of the joint. I was like, fine, I'm gonna turn right. So I'm driving around these kind of look really, really nice back roads. It's super early on a Sunday morning, and it kind of going through, farm country and whatever. And then I looked to the left, and like there's a Piney River Creek kind of goes through the entire like Dixon, Hickman County. And I was driving through. I was like, that looks familiar. Like something about that looks familiar. And I go around this little bend, this little corner, and I look to the right, and there's a super tall, white, kind of like farmhouse looking building. And I was like, I knew exactly where I was driving. I'm driving right through the ranch, which is the place that I went for 90 days to get sober or start my journey in recovery. And I looked to the left, and behind the barn where we had equine therapy and stuff was back in the distance was the house that I slept in for 90 days. And I haven't been back I went and spoke there around 5 or 6 years ago, but I haven't been back in like 5 or 6 years. So I kind of honestly forgot how unassuming the whole place is.
It's like Little House on the Prairie, dude, to me.
Yeah, it is straight it's like Little Shack on the Prairie. Mm-hmm. And I looked in the distance, and there was I called it River House. I look back at it, and it was a beautiful morning. The sun was coming up. It was brisk, silent, and so I just kind of like pulled over real quick and took a picture of it because it looks like nothing. I mean, in the scheme of life and in the houses that you see most people live in, it looks like it's like a shack. It literally looks like an outhouse shack on someone's farmland, which is kind of what it is. And I was in there with 13 other guys from all over the country and working my ass off. And I just kind of chuckled, and I was like, you hear and you see, and there's nothing wrong with these places, but this was the place for me because it was the opposite of Passages Malibu and these like really swanky places with pools and hot tubs and spas and daily massages and all this kind of stuff. But this place was just, it was just hard. And I sent my mom a picture and I sent something to the group, and it was like hard work can happen anywhere. But what my mom said was, because I joked with her about it, and she said her first phrase was, healing can happen anywhere. It's just your choice of whether you want it to happen or not. And my thing was, hard work can happen anywhere. And we're so obsessed, and that's for me, that's what it was. It was hard work can happen anywhere. I needed less, right? Less distraction, less everything, to be forced into a position to where you just got to do it. You alone. You don't need these extra things to distract you or look forward to. You got to do it for you at the core with the bare bones, right? You got, therapists and groups and stuff like that to help, but the hardest work you'll ever do is on yourself. And if you can do that with silence around you, because silence is super uncomfortable, right? Because then your thoughts go crazy. Like, we couldn't listen to music. We didn't watch TV. We got to talk on the phone like once a week, and ask permission. And somebody sit there and, and make sure, you're having a healthy conversation, right? Like the first conversation I called you, remember I had my RA was in there, I had a 10-minute phone call. And he had to sit there the whole time. Make sure you're having like a healthy conversation. It's like, no internet, no cell phones, no nothing. And I remember as like the first like few weeks went by, I was like, this is just the worst. And then I got so comfortable because it was so quiet that I loved it and I craved it. And to me, it was a very timely reminder in a world where more is advertised, right? Buy this, it'll make it easier. Not 10 weeks, but 2 weeks, right? Not 5 days of running a week, 2 days of running. It's like we're advertising less. We're advertising easy, and we're advertising hacks. And why are hacks popular and why are hacks marketable? Because everyone wants a shortcut. And if you want to, appease the masses and market the masses, you make things easier. You're not going to see the C26 book of consistency, no magic, no glitter, no sparkles, but hard work and determination for a year or two to get better. That's not going to fly off the shelves, right? It's the 2 weeks of this and 4 weeks of that. And it is like if you can't do something with what you have now, if you can't do the work required with what you have now, you can't do it with more. And that's the society we live in. Christmas is coming around the corner. People can buy new things. Buying a new trainer is going to get me excited to train. No, it's not. You might feel good. Punching the register button's going to get me excited for a race. No, it's not. It might last for like a second. It's like taking a hit off a drug. It'll last for about a second, and then you're going to be down and hungover and feeling like shit again. But that's what we've done. We've created a society and we've created a demand for weak and easy because it's marketable, right? And we can flip that script to everyone, but that's not how things are done, right? And I remember those times so vividly. The things I was going through, I had barely anything at my disposal in terms of, all the extras you could have to distract you. I was going through some just insanely hard times for me and other things in my life that were challenging and stressful. I couldn't turn on a TV, couldn't scroll on the internet, couldn't even call anybody, right? I just had to think about it and think through it and convince myself, you can do this, you can do that, you can make it through this. It was a conversation between me, for me, and about me. And it carved out and shaped the person that I am today. Do I think I'm as strong as I used to be? Frankly, probably not. Because, the more things we add, I think the weaker we become. Yes, you can use things for good and things can help you, agreed. But at the core of it, those first 2 years, and especially those 9 days, I was like, because I remember specifically sitting outside of a bench and my therapist came to me and told me some really hard news. And he looked at me in the face and he said, I've been doing this for 12 years and I've never met you call them clients. I've never had a client go through what you're going through in their first 90 days, ever. But I can tell you this, if you can make it through these 90, you can make it forever. And that just small piece, it wasn't like, hey, go take a vacation, skip therapy today, just do what you need to do to kind of recharge. It was kind of in a way, I think he was challenging me. And we still keep in touch to this day. And he's one of the most impactful people in my life. But I was like, you're right. I was like, if I can make it through these 90 days, I can make it through anything. And I was like, with no one's help, right? It's always good to have help. It's always good to have support and good to people to love you. But at the core of it, it usually always comes back to you. Can you do it? Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to do what you need to do to feel strong enough or to get strong enough to make it through? Right. And it all comes down to you. So you're talking about, getting better, getting faster, being more consistent. You can buy whatever and ask for whatever and implement whatever. But the choice always comes back down to you. Right. Are you willing to do A, B, and C? Because it's a choice. Right. And maybe for a short-term period, you can, get excited about hopping on a new trainer or a new program or using a new software or even hiring a coach. I will never work with an athlete who says, I need motivation, so I think I need coaching. Well, I'm not here for motivation. That's not my job. Because I can't be there. I'm not like, hanging around 24/7. But I want you to work hard, because if I can teach you and help you motivate yourself, then we're all going to be better.
Yep.
Right. And it's about challenging people. And I know you feel the same way.
I do. I mean, what you went through was very difficult. And I was there and I watched a lot of it. And, after this weekend, I'm always reminded these are things that, I don't know, it's almost like a spiritual awakening on a minor level, because I walk away from that. And one of the thoughts I had was, after Run Camp, is that most of us aren't even close to our potential. That's the thought, think about that. Like what we do out there, and like what we did on that half marathon and stuff. And I had no idea going into that thing what I was going to be able to do. I felt like I could make it and everything, but I ended up feeling pretty strong. And like you said, I mean, like that's almost 3 hours of running. Or running, hiking, whatever you want to call it, on hard terrain. And I hadn't even been close to that training. A lot of people want to get trained up for Run Camp, and I don't necessarily think most do, but what it does to me, man, is it just reminds me, is like, dude, you can do that without even, like, it's just like, how much more are you wasting?
Right.
And that is just like, and I think I talked about it a few podcasts ago, that's sort of my regret, or my biggest fear, is that the regret of like, did I really give it my all and see what I could do? I mean, did I really test my limits and see what potential I really had, whether it's in triathlon or life or whatever you want to call it? But man, we have so much potential, and the only way to understand that is to explore the ends and push the envelope and see what's out there, because that's one of the things, man. It's like, whether you're running down those hills or whatever, you just have to have faith in your body and trust your body. I've spent a lot of, you know me, I've always been a kind of a big sleeper, and I think that's important. And a lot of times I'll just lay there and go, I just don't know if I've got the energy yet. So I'll try and get another hour of sleep or something. But then you get up and you do things like this, and your body is like, I don't know. I just feel like my body is half the time is barely tapped for its potential. I mean, like the power that we have to explore extremes, and that's all of us. That's the good thing about the internet for me, is that you see, and I think that's why more and more people are performing well at triathlon, is you can actually see it now. Before it was kind of a mystery. Did you hear about that guy who ran around the world? It's like, then you have to like go to the microfiche in the library and look it up and make sure it was true. But now it's like in your feed every day, people doing amazing things, and we want to do that, but there's just so many more distractions. And I love what you said about the quiet and the peace, because you can, one of the things is, man, if you can get through like a week, I'm not saying like in your situation, but like if you want to create a new habit or something, it used to say you got to do something for 30 days and it'll become a habit. I think that is shrinking, but it's so easy. Like one of the recent things, I was just in and out battle with caffeine or whatever, because I'm thinking, ultimately it's a drug. And if I get up and crave it, then I feel like I'm a bit of an addict sometimes. So every once in a while, I try and give it up. But like 2 days in, I'm like, man, this ain't worth it. It's like, but if you can get through 3 or 4 days, then it becomes something, whatever that habit is, and it's just, it's not that long, but we can't break these simple habits because we just don't sit with ourselves. It's so uncomfortable, like you said, sitting with yourself and quiet and just really going, okay, I know in the long run this will be better if I can just go a couple more days, or whether it's habits of getting to the pool or swimming or biking or whatever. I think it kind of turns around the other way. You know what I mean? If you get in a little groove, it's just like we go out and run for 4 straight days, twice a day. And what's the thing I did yesterday when I got back? I went running. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, maybe I can do this, rather than just sitting and stirring in your own head about, I don't know if I'm ready yet. You're ready. Just go do it.
Well, one of the biggest reasons we all kind of live in like this standard state of stress and inflammation and anxiety and depression, is the fact that we just sit in unresolved issues constantly, 24 hours a day, because we refuse to either address it or to sit in silence enough to work through it. Because pick up our phone, we'll turn on the TV, we'll do this, we'll binge, we'll do this. It's like binge watch something. It's like anything we can do to take ourselves out of our own mind. And you wonder why, and it's kind of like, and you wonder how we got here. It's like, but it's the truth, right? And that you just have to have those, and it might be excruciating to deal with it, to think of it, to have these emotions bubble up and to feel these things. But then you get past it and then you shut it and it's gone, right? Or you can live better with it. Not, let's see how many things I can hang on to. Right. And like it's a badge of honor to see how many things you can go through at once. Is, well, if you're dealing with this many things at one time, you're rarely ever going through them. You're just hanging on tight. And that's a horrible place to live. Right. It's a horrible way to live. And so it is. It's one of those, again, it's so contradictory to society and culture now of easy, softer, gentler, easier, this is okay. And you're like, well, some of it's not. And that's also okay, right? To grow, you have to be challenged. You have to be. And there's a million ways you can do that, but always finding the easier way, or always giving up when there's an ounce of hard, right, to it, is not the answer. Right, because you're not setting the tone you want to set, and that was the conversation we had before we went on today. And you said, "Yeah, I get back from run camp. We both drove home Sunday, and you were like, yeah, I went for a run Monday night on the treadmill." And I said, "Yeah, I got up Monday morning, even though my quads are trashed, and took waffles with me and went for a run. And I knew it wasn't going to feel good, but we both wanted to set the tone for the week." And it wouldn't be pretty. It might not dictate every day, but the tone was, I'm getting back to work. The tone is, I'm going to do something. I'm going to get moving. I'm going to keep this a priority. The tone wasn't, well, I just put in a lot of work and I have a lot to do. I got some catching up to do. Every excuse in the book comes out, right? I got a training piece catch up on, emails, family time, whatever it is. Every excuse that you can use is validated, because that's also something that we become like very accustomed to now, is we soak in and applaud everyone's excuse. Oh, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. And sometimes we got to make it fucking excuses and just get to work and make something happen, because we're the only ones that can make it, right? It's I don't remember what podcast it was I was listening to, but they said a punch from a friend is better than a hug from an enemy. And that's how I see so much of society right now, in social media and the acceptance of certain things. You're just getting constant hugs from enemies to make you feel good, to let your guard down, tell you that's okay. But what you really need is a quick fucking sucker punch in the gut from a good friend to tell you to get back to work, to tell you to get off your ass, to tell you to get moving, to tell you to be more accountable, to be more responsible, to get things done, and quit wallowing in your own pity. Those are the kind of friends you need to get moving. You don't need the ones that are going to coddle you and tell you it's always going to be okay and you can do whatever you want to. You don't need those. You don't need them, because all they're doing is they're, what they're called enablers. I was with a little recovery speaking here.
Yeah, there it
I call
is.
them enablers. Right? That's a fact. And we all have them. I called out an athlete about this a couple weeks ago. As a coach, like, I love my athletes to the core. I love them more. I love them like family. I love them like best friends. And I love them so hard so I can say hard things to them that are hopefully meaningful, impactful. And I said, if you want to get better, you got to stop running with so and so. I know you love them. I know you care about them, but you are getting in your own way, and then you use it as an excuse to not challenge yourself, because then you end up walking for 2 hours instead of running for an hour. And the next question you have to ask yourself is your buddy willing to do the same for you? Because if your buddy isn't willing to run with you for an hour, the only reason they want to spend time with you is to walk for 2 hours, then who's the one getting the most out of this relationship and this friendship? Them. Because they won't do the same for you. But you're constantly bending over backwards to do things for everyone else, and you're leaving nothing for yourself. So if you want to get better and you want to take time for yourself, then go it on your own. Or go find someone else that wants to run. But you're using it as an excuse, as a crutch, because, oh, well, I just chose to walk with so-and-so for 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, you've done that every single day, 3 days a week for the last 3 months. That's if you don't want to get better, that's fine. Or you don't want to make time for yourself, that's fine. But stop using it as an excuse, right? If you want to get better. And that's just how we've become, right? The softening of society is chronic and everywhere. And you need more friends that'll punch you in the gut or slap you across the face, or, dump cold water on you to wake you up, and not but it's not, right? You and I lived this, right? Before I went and got sober, is our group that we had, I'm not gonna say we were toxic, because we were all pretty close, but our common theme was triathlon and drinking, right? That's all we did. We'd get together, we'd travel triathlon, we'd drink a ton. And that's how, like, no one was going to call anybody out, right? That, oh, you're drinking too much, you're doing this. It was like we all felt comfortable because we knew we were around the same spirited, same kind of people, and that's what we all do in life, right? Is we all kind of gravitate towards people that will accept us, no matter what. And like, well, they're not really accepting you. They just know that you won't call them out and they won't call you out. And so, like, we live in this like comfortable area of denial. And, and you need people that'll push you to make you better and challenge you. It's this, again, like, you've become so, I think, so distanced from welcoming being challenged, that it's almost become, taboo. Like, they really challenge me. Challenging someone is supporting them. You are supporting them, and you are loving them in the biggest way possible. Coddling somebody or always doing it for them is not loving somebody. You're enabling them, and we as athletes too enable ourselves in our choices a lot of the times. But what we choose to not do, we're always taking the easy way out, or this. Sometimes you just need a swift kick in the pants, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, it is. Kick him in the pants.
Kick him.
Yeah, kick yourself in the pants. Reach your potential, man.
Yeah, do some butt kicks while you're out for your run.
Just a quick end on as I got to the end of that half marathon, maybe like with a 5K left or something, which was not even really that close to the end of that thing, by the way. But it reminded me, right, of Ironman. The whole time I was running, I was like, this is it right here. These are that feeling, that like I can't go anymore, but you're going to keep going. It's like you have to experience that. And I really almost cherished that moment because it reminded me so much of running at the back half of Ironman. And it was something that you can think about, but you can't feel very often. And I was feeling it. And I was like, I just got to get to the end. And I just kept going. So it's like a building a muscle. It's something that I think is very important to feel and experience. And that's how you get there, is by doing hard things. You can't teach somebody something until they really, experience it or feel it a lot of times.
Yeah, sometimes it's better just finish quicker and let the pain go, because that was my goal.
Right, yeah.
I took it. We can end it here in a minute, but yeah, on our race, I went a little bit too hard in the first loop, and then the group of guys I was with, but I mean, to be honest, I think they were kind of babying me a little bit, and and they just kind of took off in the distance, and I got dropped, and there was like 4 or 5 of them up front kind of doing their own thing, and I was in a dark place. And
Yeah,
I was like,
good.
just keep moving forward, just keep pushing. And then I finally realized, like, once I got to the top of that big ass gravel hill, as I was hiking and going down, I just kind of realized, I was like, there's nothing you can do besides sitting on a curb is going to make you feel better. Walking's going to hurt, hiking's going to hurt, running's going to hurt. But if you run faster, it'll be over quicker. And I just said, fuck it, let's run. And I just said, I'm going to go over the well, and I'm going to go as hard as I can for as long as I can, or hopefully as short as I can, and then it'll be over. And that's what I did. And then I was shelled, but it was over. And it was a lot better than still being out there for 30 minutes, still be going with the same amount of pain. Sometimes you just got to rip the cord and make a decision like that to go for it. It wasn't comfortable, but I got over quicker, and I got a cup of coffee and got a smoothie and was back out cheering.
Yep. That's the way to do it, man.
That's the way to do it. But yeah, in all honesty, it's, for those of you listening and looking at next year and looking how to make plans or get better, you can't buy better. It's just a fact. You got to work hard and work hard. Honestly, find a way to work better with less first than the feeling like you can do more with more.
Yeah, I agree.
And then that's it. Because if you can do more with less, then you can do incredible things with more. But you can't learn it on the inverse, right? It's like spoiling your kids. It's one of the things that one of my very first bosses always told me the first day I met him. He said, he was a president of the company and I was a manager, and he said, always start off too hard with your employees because you can always soften up, but you can't start off soft and get too hard, because they'll have lost our respect and they'll be like, what? No, you told me I could do this. And that's the same applies, to training and commitment and accountability and being consistent and the choices you make. Do more with less before you think about getting more. And then the other piece summarizes, surround yourself with good people, surround yourself with opportunities to be happy, to laugh, to have fun, to disconnect, and understand we've all got a tremendous amount of responsibilities, and with that becomes a tremendous amount of stress. But, at some point you got to take time for yourself, make time for yourself. Because a lot of us don't, we choose not to. And again, like, I agree, these camps are always such an amazing reminder of the important things in life and what can be accomplished and how you can feel with minimal material things, right? Just good people, good conversation, great support, and getting outside. It's this crazy magic medicine that's absolutely fucking free, but is probably the most underutilized drug in America. That's topic for a different day. Again, we'll touch on Thursday's podcast. We'll go over all the details of the changing of the guard, it seems, in the Ironman World Championships, and the splitting of the men's and women's race, the last minute-ness of it, and how people are feeling, and just kind of the reality of the situation and our thoughts on it. But as always, we love you. We appreciate you. And we do. And say it again, we love you and we appreciate you. And that's often why we say the words that we do. Go to our website, C26Triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. And click on the coaching tab that might be right for you. Just peruse all the options that we have. We have a lot of options, a lot of ways to connect with people and help people for 2023. That isn't just coaching or a training plan. So check those out. And if you need anything from Mike, he's available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. And if you need anything from me specifically, I'm at C26Coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. I really appreciate it. It was great seeing you, and we'll be talking again Thursday, I guess.
There we go. See you, dude.
All right, man. Bye.